Hey everyone, Felix from Nintendo Life here, and what do you get if you split the number 64 in two? One sec, boss! It's 32! Thanks? Either way, the number 32 is now the amount of N64 games we have on Switch via NSO, and I thought it would be fun to find out which ones are the best and which ones you should just stay away from. The way these games are ranked is that on our website, you can score a game from 1 to 10 stars, and collecting all the votes we got for the 32 games gives us this delicious ranking. That way, you can't come here and complain about us putting a game above something else. No, this list was made by you. And the words about each game, well, they were written by the wonderful Gavin Lane and the Nintendo Life staff. But without further ado, I think we should just jump right into it. And starting off the list in 32nd place, we have Iggy's Wrecking Balls. This game is an oddball racing platformer. Up to 4 players are tasked with negotiating tower-like obstacle courses as fast as possible, rolling their way to the finish line using a grappling hook to scramble between platforms and grab other racers on the way. It remained an N64 exclusive for over 25 years until Nintendo apparently struck a deal with Throwback Entertainment, who owns much of their old Acclaim IP, and bought it, plus Extreme G, to the NSO expansion pack. Not a must-play, but intriguing enough to investigate if you're partial to inessential 60-bit curios. And next up, we have Dr. Mario 64. This puzzler is essentially a 60-bit remake of the original Dr. Mario and was never released in Europe or Japan, although it did appear in a Japan-only Nintendo puzzle collection on GameCube alongside Panel de Pon and Yoshi's Cookie. This game is just Dr. Mario, but prettier than it had ever been. A solid puzzler with little to get angry or excited about. And coming up, we have Winback Covered Operations. We don't know about you, but games like Operation Winback, as this was known in Europe and Australia, and Konami's Hybrid Heaven, occupied the B tier on our to-get list back in the day. They looked interesting, but they were way down the list behind the first-party purchases, and many of us simply never got around to catching up on them once the 64-bit generation came to an end. While Koei's third-person shooter wouldn't go down in the annals of covered ops gaming as a classic, its cover system felt fresh back in 1999, and the ability to check out the game on Switch and place it in its historical context is most definitely welcome. And next up, we have Yoshi's Story. Coming after the incredible and incredibly beautiful Yoshi's Island on SNES, it's no surprise that Yoshi's Story rubs some people the wrong way with its accessible storybook approach and cutiness. It's certainly not the strongest or most complex 2D platformer you'll ever play, but it's brimming with that Yoshi trademark charm, and we'd say that it's worthy of a reassessment if you've diminished it in the past. The N64 wasn't blessed with an abundance of side-on platformers, but armed with the knowledge that this isn't a 60-bit Yoshi's Island, this is a great little game starting everyone's favorite fruit-munching dino. And next in line, we have Extreme G. In 1997, the year before the excellent F-Zero X and Wipeout 64 would arrive to battle for gold on the N64's futuristic racing podium, Extreme G had the track pretty much to itself. This Acclaim-published, combat-heavy N64 exclusive bike racer might have had to settle for bronze when those classics arrived on the circuit, but it did put in a decent performance in the interim, doing well enough to garner 3 more series installments in the years that followed. Extreme G can't keep up with the all-time champs then, but it's a slick, solid racer that takes advantage of the 64's 4 controller ports for multiplayer. Definitely worth firing this one up. Are you ready to puzzle as a Pokemon trainer? Because next up we have Pokemon Puzzle League. This is really just Panel de Pon / Tetris Attack with a Pokemon makeover. That's not bad though, because it's still the same brilliant block puzzler. Panel de Pon fanatics will have the time of their lives regardless, but the Pokemon wrapper helps draw in and hold the attention of new players long enough for the puzzling to grab hold. With the added Pokemon nostalgia factor that's grown over the decades, there's even more reason to investigate Pokemon Puzzle League if it's passed you by all those years ago. It's still the same old game, and it still rocks. And next up, we have 1080 Snowboarding, a game which teaches the rewards of dedication and perseverance. Winning the race might look like the point of the game, but the real goal is right there in the title, pulling at 1080. It took us years, but we kept at it and boom, we finally nailed it. With sunlight glistering off the piste and snow spraying up behind your board, 1080 snowboarding's frame rate suffered accordingly, but its subtle controls enabled you to sharpen up shallow turns and gracefully arc across the course, and coupled with the visuals, it conveys a taste of the feeling you get from the real-life sport. When you're not falling on your ass, that is. Coming right up, we have Pokemon Stadium. This was a revolutionary step up for the monster-catching franchise, and it's not just due to the fact that we got to see all 151 critters in full-fledged 3D. The inclusion of the Game Boy Tower, as well as allowing players to experience Pokemon characters in fun new ways through minigames and the Pokemon Lab, felt remarkably fresh and offered a new perspective on our repository of mons. Sure, the battling can be a bit repetitive and lengthy, but the awesome visuals, animations, and commentary can help with this becoming mundane. If you're playing this on NSO, you're of course limited to rental teams, but there's plenty to love here if you're an OG fan. And the Licky Tongue Sushi minigame is still just as great as we remembered. At 24th place, we have Excitebike 64. Canadian developer Left Field Productions, the team behind the fondly remembered NBA Countryside games, was responsible for this brilliant entry in Nintendo's motocross series. Shifting the gameplay from side-on to behind-the-rider 3D, it melded the careful pitch and throttle controls of the original game with the subtle mechanics of the N64 stablemates, Wave Race 64 and 1080 snowboarding to produce something just as deep, rewarding and addictive as those races. There's a lot of racing mechanics you have to learn, but once it clicks and you hit off those giant ramps, man oh man, is it just magical. Next up, we have Jet Force Gemini. An underrated entry in the Rareware library, Jet Force Gemini coupled cute design with chunky, gunchy third-person blasting in a world-hopping quest to defeat insectoid overlord Mizar. Juno, Vela, and trusty good boy Lupus's adventure is not without flaws, but this game is a surprisingly deep and satisfying one that's worth investigating if you're a Rare fan looking for gems that pass you by around the turn of the millennium. In Kirby 64 The Crystal Shards, HAL Laboratory managed to keep the core structure many knew and loved about the Kirby series while glossing it up with a shiny coat of polygonal paint for the new console generation. Kirby's 64-bit foray into the third dimension, well kinda, it's 2.5D or on rails 3D if you prefer, stands out as one of the more unique entries in the series, feeling somewhat fresh in the comparison to the many 2D Kirby platformers, and is still pleasurable to play to this day. And coming in at 21st place, we have Blast Corps. Blast Corps involves clearing a path for a slow-moving truck carrying a malfunctioning nuclear missile to a safe detonating zone, a zone which is blocked by buildings and other structures ripe for destruction. As with many 60-bit titles, its early polygonal visuals are arguably looking a little dodgy these days, but don't let its looks put you off. This incredibly silly concept makes for a rare gem and one of the most fun games on N64. And right next in line, it's Mario Party, the game that started it all. So much of what we see in Mario Party today was invented in this one and just iterated upon over time. Sure, it is a little bit slow in places, but they got so much right out of the get-go. The whole structure of running around on a board, and after everyone has had a turn, you have a mini game where you all battle it out for coins to buy stars. Yeah, just absolute delight. And the minigames here truly shine with bumper balls, facelift, and mushroom mix-up, helping to cement our legacy. No one knows how to party like Mario, and they never have done, as proven right here. And now we have the penultimate Pokemon game on the list, it's Pokemon Snap. Sitting in a vehicle moving along a set path as you take photographs might not seem like much fun, but Pokemon Snap quickly proves to be a highly enjoyable, if short-lived, experience. The quest to find a few more Pokemon or score better, to open up new stages or get a useful item keeps you engaged for the game's brief duration, and the variety of creatures and their actions keep things interesting when replaying stages. There are only 63 Pokemons to find, but there's plenty of opportunity for new and improved or funnier photos for each playthrough. The Switch sequel may have far eclipsed this one, but Pokemon Snap's inhabitants will surely bring a smile to your face. Pilot Wings 64 was a brilliant launch title for the system, which showcased its features and provided players with a lovely flight sim adventure, something worthy of playing alongside the mighty Super Mario 64. It proved to be a diverting companion piece for early adopters, which built on the Super NES original, with gameplay equal parts tense and relaxing. I could do this all day. On 17th place, we have Mario Golf. Camelot brought Mario and his golfing pals onto the 3D fairways in this excellent entry in his catalogue of sports games. This game also linked up with Mario Golf for Game Boy Color. Now, they are very different games, and the handheld version is probably even better thanks to its brilliant RPG elements, but together they make an unbeatable pair. When we were disappointed that later games like Mario Golf Super Rush don't match the quality of the older entries, it's Mario Golf that we were remembering with a fairway wistful look in our eyes. Next up, we have Sin and Punishment. Gamers in the West wouldn't be able to get their hands on Treasure's hectic N64 on-rail shooter, not easily that is, there's always the option to import, until it came to the Wii U Virtual Console. On original release, it quickly became a cult classic thanks to its developer's heritage and its Japan-only status. And while it's probably not worth importing a Japanese console to enjoy this game alone, I mean, we did, but we're also a bit obsessive, and its sequel, Sin and Punishment's star successor for Wii, arguably improves on this foundation in every way, this is still a very fine shooter from a very fine developer. Cracking box art too. The original Pokemon Stadium was fine, but Pokemon Stadium 2 expanded the concept of a 3D companion cartridge to play alongside the mainline Game Boy games. It included Pokemon from both the first gen and second gen regions and offered some juicy extras if you owned the Game Boy entries. We pity whoever had Pokemon Stadium without owning blue, red, yellow, gold, or silver. Only in the soundtrack department did it arguably not live up to its predecessor, but otherwise this felt like the proper execution of the concept. Whatever you do, don't go back and play Wave Race 64. Its incredible water physics, tight controls, chunky visuals, and titanic brilliance will immediately have you degenerate into a foreign lingering whinger, and you won't be able to stop yourself complaining about the absence of this series from Nintendo's consoles since the GameCube, and how Nintendo hates its fans and don't want their money, and how the success of the Switch means there's space for lesser known franchises to make a return, and how we can't have nice things, and how... sorry about that. Next up, we have Harvest Moon 64. As with most entries in this farm sim series, let its gentle cycle of farm work and soil-based simulations seep into you, and Harvest Moon 64 has the potential to suck hours and days out of your life. It's hardly a technical tour de force, but tending livestock, growing seeds, harvesting your crops, and striking up a relationship doesn't require massive hardware horsepower, and the series' 60-bit entry is as engrossing as any. Next up, we have another Mario sports title in Mario Tennis. The first entry in the Mario Tennis series, second if you don't count Mario's Tennis for the Virtual Boy, was one of our winning doubles team in the Mushroom Kingdom sports department from Camelot. The studio also released the brilliant Mario Golf for N64, as well as Game Boy Color versions of each game that linked up to their home console cousins via the transfer pack. Mario's played a lot of tennis over the years, but this remains one of the finest on-court showings, and it also introduced the likes of Waluigi, which has been a staple in the Mario franchise ever since. And next up we have Mario Kart 64. While the races themselves might not have been truly 3D, rather they were detailed Donkey Kong Country style sprites created from 3D character renders, Mario Kart 64's huge undulating circuits still showed off the benefits of 64-bit hardware. It added inclines, items, obstacles, and 4-player multiplayer mode to the winning formula Nintendo cooked up on the Super NES. Each iteration of the Mario Kart series added a little something new, but following on from the flat circuits of Super Mario Kart, there's arguably been nothing quite like this first jump to 3D. And we've now moved into the top 10, and starting off, we have Mario Party 3. The third and final fiesta thrown by Mario on the Nintendo 64, the Mario Party formula had been well established at this point. Hudson Soft saw no reason to change it up in any way or kick it up a gear beyond a new influx of minigames, but that doesn't stop this game from being a quintessential entry in the series. A riot with multiple friends and a soul-crushing grind for a lonely single player. But wait, why would anyone play Mario Party on their own? Well, for the brand new story mode, of course. We all know the real reason this places as high on the list as it does. No, it's not the fact that you can hold 3 items, but that Daisy and Waluigi make their polished party debut. As the final Mario game to release on N64, except in Australia, it's a darn good send-off. And we're not going away from the Mario Party franchise on N64 because next up we have Mario Party 2. Of the 3 Hudson-developed minigame bonanzas that came out on the N64, Mario Party 2 is arguably the fan favorite. This is where battle, item, and duel minigames got their start, and you could spend all the time in the world practicing the minigames before you start, so you can ensure that you're perfect for party play. Obviously, you'll need 3 friends to get the most out of this, but the first sequel built on the foundation of the original and stirred the series on a steady course which now exceeds well into double figures. Even 2 decades later, it stands as one of the very best party games ever. Let's kick the energy up a bit. Actually, a whole bit, because we have F-Zero X. This 60-bit entry is metal. Pure, simple, guitar-screeching, all-out metal. EID stripped back extraneous detail to achieve the smoothest, most blistering and nail-biting precise racing experience. At this speed, on these dizzying tracks, even the tiniest prod on the speedy analog stick matters, and the original N64 pad offers peak precision for micro adjustments, which make the difference between gracefully sweeping through a corner with a pixel to spare, or catching said corner and ricocheting between barriers to an explosive, humiliating retirement. How much more metal could this get? None. None more metal. Flaming skulls and chromed motorcycles would actually reduce the metal content of this game. 2 decades on, and Paper Mario might not look as sharp as it once did, but it does hold up very well where it matters, and jolts this with the 1000-year door for the title of Best Paper Mario Game. The N64 original does very well to ease Mario fans into a new style of adventure while providing a depth for RPG gamers that you might not expect from the paper-thin promise. I'm sorry, with a great supporting cast and buckets of trademark Nintendo charm, the original is up there with the best. The ability to play it on the Switch is great news to anyone who missed out but still enjoys the more recent, less vital entries in the Paper Mario series. And almost entering the top 5 is Star Fox 64. Known as Lylat Wars in Europe, Star Fox 64 originally came in a whopping great box containing a rumble pack and was many a gamer's introduction to force feedback on console. It's still an excellent game all these years later, with thrilling action and delicate and precise controls, steering music, humor, spectacle, and edge-on-your-seat excitement. A quick blast through this, and it's clear to see why so many people think the Star Fox series peaked with its first sequel. It's not just the nostalgia talking, it really holds up beautiful 2.5 decades on. And now, entering the top 5, we have Banjo and Kazooie. Rareware put out several platformers on Nintendo 64, each with their own pros and cons, but they arguably never topped the debut of the Bear and Bird. There's something in the precise platforming and fairy tale formula of Banjo-Kazooie that resulted in the quintessential 3D collectathon. It's big but not sprawling, sweet but not sickly, challenging but never unfair. Okay, a couple of those Rusty Bucket Bay jiggies walk a fine line. From the roaming droblins to Mumbo Jumbo's hilarious transformations, its colorful characters and varied worlds are shot through with humor, adorable animation, tight controls, and an oompa music box soundtrack that nails the spirit of cheeky storybook adventure perfectly. And on 4th place, we have Super Mario 64. The 3D platformer that defined what that label meant. It's remarkable just how much Shigeru Miyamoto and his team got right with its first foray. It feels effortless, as if these mechanics were somehow self-evident or arrived at through natural evolution. Nintendo absolutely nailed the formula from the very beginning, so much so that the basic 3D template hasn't really changed much even today. We could go on endlessly about its genre birthing mechanics, how it set the stage for 3D gaming as we know it, and blather about the infinity of tiny details that makes this a joy to fire up all these years later. But you all know that. Do yourself a favor and blast through a couple of dozen stars next time you're pondering what to play. It still feels almost as good as it did the very first time. And on 3rd place, we have the best movie tie-in ever made. Not only was Rare's game hugely influential on the console FPS genre, but it also gave N64 owners a proper adult experience to sink their teeth into. At a time when PlayStation was too cool for school, GoldenEye 007 provided some real ammo in the console wars, and its 4-player deathmatches, remarkably a last-minute addition before the game went gold, led to some of the best multiplayer memories we have for any system. And coming in at place number 2, we have The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask. Known colloquially around these parts as Majora's Marmite, the 3-day cycle added a constant pressure that turned off many players. However, that cycle is also key to the unique way Majora's Mask focuses on its cast of uncanny character and soaks the adventure in melancholy and madness. In fact, adventure isn't quite the right word for this Zelda game. It's more of a Lynchian dreamscape in cartridge form, and one which isn't for everyone. The excellent 3DS remake is probably the best way to play these days, thanks to some welcome additions for managing your limited time, although the original is conveniently available to play via NSO. Wherever you play though, the Clockwork Land of Termina offers something truly unique in the Zelda series. Oh, and we don't really call it Majora's Marmite. And taking the top spot, to probably no one's surprise, it's The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time. What is there that hasn't already been said about this one? A seminal video game, Ocarina of Time brought The Legend of Zelda into the 3rd dimension as successfully as the plumber made the leap in Super Mario 64. Yet, when Nintendo could throw any playground-style idea into Mario's launch game, Ocarina had to tell a story and evoke a consistent mood throughout. Going back these days, the frame rate and cumbersome menus may surprise you, and Hyrule Field feels decidedly smaller, more like field, in fact, compared to the vast kingdom of Hyrule presented in Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild. But the pure magic of the game still shines through any aging systems. This set the template for not only every subsequent Zelda title, but also the majority of action-adventure games from the past 2.5 decades. No wonder it's so revered. The 3DS remake is the more streamlined version, but there are things that Gresso's excellent remake couldn't quite recapture. Whether it's the Rumble Pack-powered Stone of Agony or the 60-bit mist hanging over Lake Hylia in the early hours, the N64 original still has that special something. And there you have it. Those were the 32 Nintendo 64 games on NSO ranked. Did you agree with the ranking or did you not? Well, either way, I would like to hear from you down in the comments below what your favorite 3 of the 32 games are. Stay safe, play some Nintendo 64 on the Switch, and we'll see you in the next one. Felix from Nintendo Life, products.